Hi everyone, and welcome to this video on organizing quantitative data. In this video, we're going to learn how to create a histogram as well as a relative frequency histogram. Notice down here at the bottom we have a definition of a histogram. It is a graph consisting of bars of equal width drawn adjacent or touching each other. The horizontal scale, that's this, x-axis, or horizontal scale, represents the classes of quantitative data values, and the vertical scale, that's over here, your y-axis or your vertical scale, represents frequencies. The heights of the bars correspond to frequency counts. So let's get started. You might notice that we already have over here a frequency distribution. If you want to understand how we created that frequency distribution, then you should watch the previous video that I published. So here are our classes. So notice that our definition said that the classes of age should go on the horizontal axis. So we're going to label this as age, and usually we express the units in parentheses so that people know, are we talking about days, weeks, years, millennia, how are we measuring age? That's kind of important. And then over here on our y-axis, we are measuring our frequency. Okay. We also need a descriptive and informative title. So if you remember from the previous video, these are the ages of a sample of friends on Facebook. So we could just say age of, I guess I should capitalize that, the age of friends on Facebook. Or I could have said Facebook friends. It doesn't really matter. So notice just saying age or age versus frequency isn't really informative. I have no idea whose age I'm measuring, so I need a little bit more information. Now, you can see here I have a bunch of tick marks, but I don't have any numbers on my x or y axis, and I'm going to really need some before I can start plotting things. So, how do we do this? Well, you notice we have a range of values from 0 to almost 60. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start labeling my x-axis, and I'm going to let every 2 tick marks represent 10 years. So this is going to be 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I might have been able to get away with maybe making my bars a little bit wider. Actually, let's try that just to see if it works. Because when you create a graph, it's really important to use up as much space as you're given. A way to think about it is kind of like a photograph. You wouldn't hang a photograph of on your wall, probably, that's mostly blank space with only a tiny little bit of an image on one side. You want to take up that whole space, the whole canvas, if you will. Okay, so I have 0 to 60, so I have my age and years numbered, and then I have my frequency. So again, of course, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's silly because look at all the space that I have here available to me. So I'm going to try to use up all of the tick marks I can. So let's count. How about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? This will be 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This top bar will be 4. Again, think about it almost from an artistic standpoint of really trying to take up as much space as you are given. Okay, so hopefully you can see all of those numbers. If you want to follow along on your own paper, you can write this down and take notes. All right, so let's get our first bar drawn. So one thing you might be wondering is, well, if this is 0 through 9, where should it stop? Maybe it should stop right here at 9. Well, we didn't really label 9. And, oh, wait a minute, we have to remember our definition, which is that a histogram has to have bars that are touching each other. there should not be any gaps in between bars. Oops, sorry, I don't know why I wrote gaps. There we go, gaps. So our first bar is going to go from 0 to 10. And I'll explain why in 1 second. So here's our first bar. And if you want to, you can use sort of like hash marks or something to shade in the bar if you'd like to do that. So, the way we draw this is that this lower limit is included in the first bar, and then it extends all the way to the very first value, which is 10, of our next bar, or our next class rather, right? Our next class starts at 10. And we do that because, again, we can't have any gaps or any spaces in between our bars. And you'll see why in a second. All right, so our next bar starts at 10, and it looks like it has a frequency of 4. So we're going to go all the way up here, like that. Oops. This line function isn't really working for me. Here we go. I'll just use that. And again, you can kind of use hash marks to shade it and to really visually make it pop. Notice most of the time, almost always, especially if you were actually doing this in a job or a career, you would be using technology. There's no way you would be doing this by hand. The only reason I'm demonstrating this for you guys is so that you can understand the process and you could understand how the software arrives at the image that it would be generating for you. So this next class, oops, that didn't work. Doesn't like drawing straight lines here. It keeps snapping to something else that I don't want. All right. I'm giving up and using the pen. Okay, so we're going to shade that. So that went up to 3, as you can see. The next one is 0. So if you want to, you can draw a line down here, or you could just leave a gap. It's up to you. So then the last 2 bars look like they go up to 1. So I believe that's right here. Again, these lines, this line feature on this software program are just really not... See how it's not drawing straight lines? It's crazy. Okay. Oh, goodness. That's not good either. There we go. I'll try to do it that way. Okay. Another thing you often see is that people write the numbers of the frequency on top of the bars. Okay. So, another thing to notice is that if you want to, you can go through and label the height of each bar. This is a courtesy in case the height of your bars don't align perfectly with where the tick marks are. So that's it. We're done creating this histogram. So the other thing we want to do is create a relative frequency histogram. And the crazy thing is it's going to look exactly the same as this histogram. The only thing that's going to change is our values over here on the y-axis. That's it. So stay tuned for my next video where I create a relative frequency histogram.